What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the living room. I am your host. I am Dolo tonight. I am Big Red. Anyway, before I get into tonight's show, you know how I always do and I like to do. If you're looking to get healthy, you want to get yourself right, make your way over to Juice Bars for Life. 1026 Castle Hill Avenue. That's 1026 Castle Hill Avenue. Let them hook you up with some of that watermelon, with some of that ginger, with some of that apple, with some of that banana. Everything you can put in your drink, go ahead and make yourself natural. One of the great juice bars in the Bronx, Juices for Life, located at 1026 Castle Hill Avenue, about 2 blocks from the Bruckner. All right, people, let's get into tonight's story. This one caught my eye because when I used to do what I do, it was kind of like a deja vu story for me. It's probably already streaming around the world, but I wanted to bring it. To face on my channel. So just let me begin, and I'm gonna go into the story. Tonight's story takes us to Spokane, Washington. Spokne, Spokane, Washington, and it takes us to a children's hospital. The headline reads, 15 nurses fired by hospital after 12-year-old girl dies by suicide under their supervision, reports say. 15 nurses have been fired at a Washington State hospital after a 12-year-old girl died by suicide at the facility where she was advised 24-hour supervision. According to the lawsuit, on the night of April 13th, the young lady name is Sarah. Sarah left her room in the Sacred Heart Children's Hospital and died after jumping off the parking garage. Beginning in late 2024, Sarah was repeatedly admitted to the Sacred Heart Emergency Department because of multiple attempts to end her own life. The story gets deeper, people. The story gets much deeper. Let's just say they know this girl already. So pay attention to the story. Let's just say they know this young lady already. She's not new to the staff. She's not new to the hospital at this point. Remember, that says she's been admitted in and out for a while. On that tragic night, the lawsuit accuses the staff of failing to supervise the child, allowing her to escape in the early evenings to walk freely throughout the hospital. Sarah then reached the 4th floor of the parking structure on the hospital. What? That don't make no sense. Yeah, it says Sarah reached the 4th floor of the parking structure on the hospital where she jumped off, suffering catastrophic injuries. Now, I want to go back and just read something again. On the night, the lawsuit accuses the staff of failing to supervise the child, allowing her to escape in the early evenings to walk freely through the hospital. Now, let me read that again for y'all who don't really understand what I'm saying. On the tragic night, the lawsuit accuses the staff of failing to supervise the child. Right? Of failing to supervise the child. And then it says, allowing her to escape. So she was supervised, or was she detained in some type of way? Allowing her to escape. Okay, now let's get into the last part of that now. To walk freely through the hospital. You get what I'm saying? To walk freely through the hospital. They contradicted themselves in this paragraph. So I'm not sure if they knew that she was gone, or they let her go, or maybe she just knew the staff that well. Because sometimes you be in these hospitals for a long time. You know the staff that well. They think you're on your medication. You might go for a stroll and come back. She might have been going for a stroll and looking, for a certain area. Ooh, excuse me. It says Sarah then reached the 4th floor of the parking structure on the hospital where she jumped off, suffering catastrophic injuries. 15 nurses have been fired, and 1 nurse was disciplined after questioned over how Sarah was able to leave her room undetected, according to the spokesman's review. According to multiple reports, the nurses improperly accessed Sarah's medical records, being directly involved in her care and a personal violation of the federal health privacy law. Let me read that again so you can understand. According to the multiple reports, the nurses improperly accessed Sarah's records without being directly involved in her care. So basically, the people who handle her records are not the people who took care of her. I just want y'all to understand that. And by this happening, this is a potential violation under the Federal Health Privacy Law, HIPAA. We're going to look that up in our next segment. We're going to look up to see what HIPAA is. We're going to look that up. The union said that the nurses have filed a grievance report, a process that could take a long time to resolve. Which means, so they filed a grievance, which means they believe they was fired unjustly. We're going to read on, though. We're going to read on. We're going to read on. And I'm going to tell you why. Just remember that line. The union said the nurses have filed a grievance, a process that could take a long time to resolve. And I'm going to tell you why. We're going to get to the rest of the story. Hold on. Let me get to it. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if it's in there. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. Okay, they're not giving the whole story, so I'm going to go back to blacknews.com because I want to give you the whole background of why I'm suspicious of this. I'm going to tell you in a minute. I'm going to find that story, and I'm going to read it to you. I'm sorry, I should have had it already prepared. So basically, let me just give you a background till I can find it and I can read it for you. Basically, the reason why this young lady was able to walk out of her room and undetected was because they removed the assigned person and her TV monitors which surrounded her room, which they knew she was under a 24-hour prevention. So you know what that tells me? Two things. I always refer, when I do my little podcast, I always refer them to movies. So this reminds me of the John Q movie. The only difference is you don't have the violence ends in a different way. And I'm saying that to say I believe that this is an insurance situation that might have took place between the family and the insurance company where they're no longer able to cover the young lady. That can happen. That can happen. So I'm just saying that just made me think about, man, what if this young lady was not able to afford her her insurance? Her family wasn't able to afford. Okay, I got the story. Her family wasn't able to afford her insurance. So let's go back and go back to where I left off at. Now, here's according to blacknews.com. Sarah has been in and out of Sacred Heart Children's Hospital since the late 2023, following multiple suicide attempts, according to WLBT. That's what I was just reading from the first set of news. Now, this is blacknews.com. And in April 2024, she was admitted again and placed under constant monitoring. Now, this is where it blew my mind of the story. Court filings claim that the hospital removed both healthcare worker assigned to watch her and the video surveillance system in her room before the incidents. I want to say that again. Court filings claim the hospital removed both healthcare worker assigned to watch her and the video surveillance systems in her room before the incident. On April 13th, Sarah reportedly walked out of her room without staff noticing. She wandered through the hospital, reached the fourth floor of a connected parking garage. There, she jumped and sustained fatal injuries. In the aftermath, Sacred Heart terminated 15 nurses and disciplined another over questions about how Sarah was able to leave her room. The nurses used confirmed that they have filed a grievance, a process that may take a long time. Now, here's what I'm going to say, and why I'm emphasizing that part, and I wanted to find it. Because it says that the court filings claim the hospital removed both the healthcare worker assigned to watch her and the video surveillance systems in her room before the incident, which means that order didn't come from the 15 nurses who were there. That's why they got fired. They didn't get fired because she walked out of the room. They got fired because they exposed the health coverage and the healthcare system for removing all the assigned necessary things that this young lady needed in order to watch her, from preventing her from committing suicide, and they did not want them to talk. That is why this story is so outlandish to me. Why I find it to be, man, why is this happening? Why would a young lady be able to walk through a hospital that she's already known in? She's already known to be a super. She's not new to the hospital. So they already know that this young lady is capable of committing suicides at any time of the day. That's why they knew she was under 24-hour surveillance. The moment that they removed her surveillance, this young lady jumps off the parking garage. People, we have to wake up and read between the lines when people are writing stories about story. These healthcare situations are getting out of control. Remember, we just had a healthcare worker reportedly met his demise in the middle of untimely death. Let's just say that. And these people are these healthcare workers are, man. And I think the people really starting to understand what's going on, and it's frustrating. But now we got the children who are paying the price for parents who may not be able to pay the insurance in order to get the 24-hour or the best care they can get for their children. That is scary. And as a parent who had just retired, remember, most of the time you have to get a whole different insurance, or you have to go through certain insurance, or you got to do certain things, because at this point you got to pay out your pocket, which you already were paying out your pocket when they take a certain amount of money from your check to pay your insurance, especially when you're in the union. I don't know if these medical insurance people are scammers. I don't know. I don't know anything about that world. I'm afraid to dib and dab into that world. But I'm not afraid to say that maybe somebody really need to look into this. Maybe this is not just a situation of a young lady losing her life. Maybe it's more than that. Because maybe it was costing the insurance too much money to have to monitor and have a personal monitor care worker around her. Maybe somebody should look into that. You know, I wish I had the due diligence to really, because I wouldn't know what to look for. It's just an unusual story. And with all the medical stuff going around and things happening, the story just seems to fit my format right now. You had to fire 15 nurses to cover up your stupidity. That's dangerous. Them 15 nurses might have a case too. That's for real. Not that they shouldn't be held negligent, because it gotta be just more than them 15 nurses. What about the security guards? The people who monitor cameras in the hallways? All of that. There gotta be cameras in the hallways. You're dealing with suicidal patients. So it gotta be some type of monitors in the hallway or something. Just the 15 nurses, all because they spoke out to the news. That's how WLBT got that report. That's strange, but not unusual. You know? It's just unusual for it to be a children's hospital. Usually that happens in a nursing home. Hate to be, blunt and, but that usually happens in a nursing home. That usually doesn't happen in a children's hospital. And the fact that she even was able to commit the suicide by even getting to the garage, she made it to the garage, 4th floor. So what floor was she initially on that she was able to make it to the 4th floor? That's what you got to look at. She was able to make it to the 4th floor. My condolences out to the family. And Sarah, I hope you got your wings, baby. I hope you got your wings. Because you was probably going through hell down here. I hope you got your wings, and I hope God forgives you. Because it is true that he takes care of fools and babies. But this is just an unusual story. It says on April 13th, Sarah reportedly walked out of her room without staff noticing. She wandered through the hospital and reached the 4th floor off the connected parking garage. There she jumped. So now I just want to tell you that they're just letting everybody know that they don't have cameras in their hallways. People weren't in positions for the garage. People weren't in positions in the hospital. Okay, now I can understand you firing the 15 nurses, but what about the other people who had access to these cameras, to these rooms, to these places to know that this young lady was out there? There had to be somebody watching, which means there was nobody watching. Nobody wants to take the blame. I just see it as, you know what, the insurance just cut ties because the family couldn't pay, or they just found it too expensive to maintain this young lady. Ow. Second time I done did that, man. Bump it into this table, man. That done hurt my vibes a little bit. But yeah, I just found that to be unusual. That's just an unusual case. Let's stay tuned. There got to be a part 2 to this. I'm going to look into the HIPA, I'm going to look into all of that. I'm going to look into the hospital. I'm going to look into them. Maybe I can come up with a part 2. But right now, the only thing I can think of is what's going to happen with the 15 nurses, because it's all about what they tell, what they see. They might have saw her, but because of Sherman's purposes, maybe they couldn't touch her. I don't know. This is a good one for Tone, because, Tone is the medical guy, and he understands the insurance. But this one just seems rather strange. Black girl dies by suicide while being supervised. She wasn't supervised. See, and that's the headline that gets me, too. And then the fact of the 15 nurses. You already came up with 15 sacrifices before you could even tell the story. And the story doesn't even match the firing. Sorry, just doesn't. That's just me. Complex. I look into certain things, I see certain things. That one just seems to be a little weird. That just seems to be a little weird. That's one of those stories where you have to really look. I'm telling people, looking into blacknews.com, WLBT3, look into that, look into your YouTubes, all that. Get into the story, because there's something fishy about the story. This family may really could use our help by just reporting it. I don't know. But it's just something unusual. Look into it. Her name is Sarah. She's 12 years old. We're talking Spokane, Washington. And then I'm not sure, out there, Spokane, Washington, and don't want to make it a racial thing, but it's just unusual. That's just an unusual story. And for a young lady to have to lose her life, maybe because the backstory is not being told and only the truth. So I don't know. Could it be that these 15 nurses are scapegoats? Could it be? Could it be that they used the 15 nurses? Somebody had to know other than these 15 nurses, because there's monitors in the hospital, like I said, monitors in the garage. Come on, we talking about a children's hospital. Safety and is warranted, because you have people who are on the verge of committing suicide every day, 24-hour supervision. So it's just funny how if your insurance runs out, everything runs out with it too. This is Big Rand, sending much love to the family, to the mother and to the father, and to everybody who feels the grief of this young lady. I hope you can stand strong. And please do your best. Put this story out. Let somebody know. It doesn't have to be from my page. You don't have to click onto my page. Just tell the story. She's 12 years old and she committed suicide. And right before she commits suicide, they decide to remove her healthcare worker and her monitoring for her 24-hour supervision. We got to find out why. It's either an insurance company or somebody just absolutely dropped the ball. But until we find out, I'm going to try to stay on top of the story. I hope you find peace and love in anything you do, Seven. Like I said, may God grant you your wings. Until I come up with the next story, people, please make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you kick on that bling bling, that button. Later.